Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to a new study about the amazing Caro-Kann defense. With this video we're starting now a new variation that will cover here on my YouTube chess channel. With this video we're starting the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann, and I've been asked now many times, why do I only cover some Stockfish games? Why don't I cover, I don't know, some Berserk, Lila C0, Torch games, maybe even the Dragon Engine games? The reason behind this is that actually what I'm trying to do is to cover the most aggressive, most spectacular, and the most correct openings, and that's only possible, I think, when we analyze Stockfish games. And you see now my real goal here on my YouTube chess channel is to cover all of these openings that you can find on the CCRL website, the computer chess rating website. For instance, you have here Old Benoni, the Muenach formation, Old Benoni Schmidt system. So all of these openings we will cover here through my time on my YouTube chess channel. So we have here the King's Indian Torre attack, King's Indian Fianchetto without c4. So there's so many epic openings that we can play, and I'm trying to really to cover all of them. And I think the most correct way is simply to analyze some Stockfish games. So today, as I said, we're analyzing now a different game, different variation. We're analyzing now the so-called Tal variation of the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. In my opinion, really must-know theory if you're a Caro-Kann player or if you are playing against the Caro-Kann defense. Also, this game has been downloaded from the amazing CCR website. Check it out. You can have, I think, a great preparation in some openings and some sidelines of openings. You can have really fun by analyzing some Stockfish games. Of course, you can analyze also some other top engine games, but as I said, in my opinion, the most correct games where the engines are at least making progressive ideas are simply Stockfish games. So that's why also in this game we'll see now a really spectacular approach by Stockfish 16 against slow chess in the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. So let's start now with the game. We have here the move e4 by the fish, c6 by slow chess, d4 by Stockfish, and now for move d5 we have now the move e5. This is now the so-called advanced variation, and this is a little bit different. First of all, what we can notice about the structure in the center of the board is that it's already blocked out, and whenever there is a certain static position in the center of the board, we should always evaluate our bishop strength. That's a lesson that I've talked about many times here on my YouTube chess channel. When the pawn structure is blocked out, we can already say that the dark square bishop of white is not such a powerful piece because you have many pawns on dark squares. The light square bishop is here much better piece because it has actually room to breathe, it has room to attack. On the other hand, black's light square bishop is not such a powerful piece because you have also too many pawns on light square. So that's why the most powerful bishop for black is here the dark square bishop, because it has at least some kind of an attacking chance. So you should really evaluate this position already like this, because when you want to trade off pieces, you should know which bishop to give up, which bishop actually not to give up. So here the game we have bishop to f5, very important move, because you don't want to play e6 now immediately because it's blocking out here your light square bishop. So that's why here bishop to f5 by slow chess. Stockfish continues now with the so-called Tal variation of the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann, and the idea is clear. We want to put more pressure against this bishop, even with g4, f3. In some lines, if you're not careful, you could be locked out here with the pawns against the light square bishop. So that's why slow chess continues here with the move h6. Stockfish attacks immediately. We have bishop to e4, f3, kicking with the bishop, and now bishop to d3, targeting the bishop. Stockfish says here, okay, we can trade off maybe my good bishop for your bad bishop on h7, but at least I have made progress here on the king side. At least I have here some space advantage on this side of the board. We have now bishop takes d3, queen to d3 by slow chess, e6, and now h5. You see now Stockfish suddenly keeps all of these pawns on light squares because you have the dark square bishop, and the main goal now for white is here to crack the position with f4, f5. That's the goal. You want to somehow break this pawn chain, f7, e6, d5. You want to break it here around the square f5. It's of course a long-term plan, but you see now how Stockfish will make it possible. First of all, defending the queen side, and then slowly but surely building up its attack here on this side of the board. So we have c5. Of course, now slow chess wants also to break and enter, getting use, of course, of the dark square bishop. You don't want to take because you're inviting then your opponent's piece into the game. So we have here now the move c3, knight to c6, knight to e2. Stockfish controls further the d4 square. We have queen to b6, and now a3. The idea is clear. Here Stockfish wants actually to play the move b4. With this move b4, Stockfish will solve many positional problems on the queen side after something like, I don't know, c takes b4. Then you have c takes b4, and Black doesn't have also so many great chances to attack the queen side because the position would be then symmetrical. After c takes b4, c takes b4, you have 2 pawns on the queen side. You have here also 1 pawn in the center of the board. And the only advantage that I see then after potential trades of pawns after b4 is that white has actually the only attacking chances on the king side. So that's why here slow chess plays a very nice positional idea. Plays now the move c4, advances the pawn. Slow chess has now also a space advantage on the queen side, and of course this makes this dark square bishop much more powerful because it's attacking here this side of the board. We have queen to c2 by Stockfish, f6 by slow chess, and now f4. Slow chess is also trying to break somehow the space advantage here by Stockfish. In the game after move f4, knight from g to e7 has been played. Even if you take here f takes e5, then f takes e5, knight to e7, then of course knight to d2, then probably black should castle queenside because you don't want to run into potential white's attack here. Then after something like knight to f3, maybe knight to f4 here by white is very logical because you're controlling the g6 square. Then after, I don't know, something like knight to b3, rook to b1, knight takes, after rook to e8, I think white can even castle kingside here because there's simply no good way for black to make any progress with move g6. In order somehow to break the position on the king side, you will have to push the pawn on g6, and now this square is taken by the knight, by the queen, by the pawn on h5. Also knight to h4 if necessary is possible, getting the knight then on g6. So I think with this idea white will solve all of the positional problems on this side of the board. So after move f4, that's why knight to e7, knight to d2. We have now knight to a5 by slow chess, getting use of the weak b3 square here by white. We have rook to b1, queenside castling now, and now king to f2. Very tricky idea here by Stockfish. Again, f takes e5 is not so dangerous because after f takes e5, knight to b3, we play simply knight to f3, and I think again we don't have any positional problems. We get our king here on g2. Again, maybe some ideas of knight to g3, knight to h4, but the most important part is that we are controlling here from white's perspective the square g6. We're not allowing here black to break and enter with this idea. So here after move king to f2, we have f5 by Stockfish, by slow chess, pardon me. Stockfish continues with an amazing idea, rook to g1. If, for instance, f takes g4 happens, white doesn't have to even be worried about this position. It seems that black is finally opening a position on the king side, but it's actually not so. Look at this. After rook to g4, knight to f5 seems tempting that you fix your knight on this beautiful square. But now after knight to f1 and knight to g3, in one moment black will give up here simply the battle around the square f5, and then we go king to g2, and then in some lines, as I said in the beginning, the most important goal here is to crack the position with the move f5, 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 f5. That's your progressive plan, to somehow break. Now of course there is no f pawn anymore, but as I said, the position is supposed to be broken here around the square e6. So even in this line, as I said, this is not working. So taking out even the pawn here on g4 is not so dangerous here for white. We have queen to c6, knight to f3. Again, if you try f takes g4, again with similar ideas, we will eventually immediately attack the knight. Then after rook to g3, queen to d7, we're controlling again the g6 square and nothing is wrong. Bishop to e7, we get the knight here, attack the rook, you play bishop to e3, king to g2, rook to f1, and again I think the f5 goal is working because in this line you cannot even compete anymore with rook to f8 because the knight is covering this square. So again the f5 plan I think would work here for white. So that's why here after knight to f3 we have queen to e8, knight to g3, and now finally slow chess takes f takes g4, but now a beautiful idea here by Stockfish. Stockfish is not even going anymore for the g4 pawn. Stockfish simply continues with its own plan to push the pawn again on f5. This pawn is protected, and still Stockfish has a great control of the g6 square. So far this is not working. King to b8, bishop to e3, a6 by slow chess. Slow chess is of course trying to break the position somehow here, but it's a little bit too slow. After king to g2, rook from a to knight from a to c6, and now after rook to f1, now again this f5 move Stockfish prepares in really good way. Look how Stockfish removed all of the pieces towards the king side. Although white is down a pawn, but this is a weak pawn anyway. This pawn will be taken probably after a couple more moves, so nothing dramatically is happening here on this side of the board. We have rook to d7 by slow chess, and now finally f5. If you take here e takes f5, then of course knight from h to f5, because this pawn has to be protected, and after knight to f5, rook to f5, you could maybe try now to play the move g6, finally breaking, but after h takes d6, queen to g6, rook takes f8 is winning the game. We simply pick up the piece with the check, and the game is over. You could maybe try here knight to e7 to prepare again the move g6, but now rook to f1 will still have a great control. If you try g6, then queen to f2, and now after something like g takes h5, you can even trade off the queens. It seems so that these three pawns are unstoppable. It's actually not so, because after knight h4, knight to h5, you're stepping back to rook, and now again this pawn will be probably taken. You can maybe play g3, but then king to h3. So as I said, it seems dangerous, but white can actually get rid of these pawns and will continue then probably the game with this beautiful pass pawn, supported pass pawn here on the e file. So you can maybe try knight to g6 protected, but now we double up here. You're trying maybe again to protect the pawn here, but now with knight to f6, bishop to f6, rook to f6, you're attacking the knight. You have to protect it, and now in some lines it's very also dangerous. You cannot cover anymore the b7 square. So Stockfish has everything covered. Stockfish always prevents this, as I said, main goal here by black to somehow open the position with the move g6. So after move f5, we have knight to d8 by slow chess, but now f6 by Stockfish, and this is the way to go. This is the move that Stockfish has been waiting for. Now white has the initiative. White has broken now the position on the king side, has of course a powerful formation here. All of the pieces, as I said, are simply storming towards the king side. Black tried here somehow to defend his position by removing the pieces, but now after f6 it's a different story. I think this game becomes a one-way ticket here in white's favor. So g takes f6, e takes f6, knight to c6, and now finally knight to g6. That's the square. That was the whole battle by white here around the square. Now the knight comes in a beautiful way into the game. We have rook to g8, and now rook to f2. What should black do? If you play here knight to f7, maybe to block out somehow the potential progress of the pawn, seems logical. Then rook to e1, getting the rook placed against the queen here on the e file. And the problem is now you cannot advance the pawn, because after knight to e5, knight takes e5, d takes e5, knight to e5, the bishop is taking. Now we take, we attack simply the position further, and now after rook to d4, rook to e5 here, it's simply game over. You lost the battle here in the center of the board, so this is not working. So you take, of course, this one. We take the rook here on d7. So that's why, as I said, it's not so easy after knight to f7 for black to get rid of this backward pawn. I think we can agree that this is now the main weakness in black's position, this backward pawn that's standing behind. There's always too much pressure here on the e file, and of course the knight on g6 is also controlling the score. So that's why after rook to f2, king to a7. Here slow chess brings the king on a more secure place. We have rook to e1. Stockfish is again battling against this weak pawn on e6, rook to f7, and now queen to c1. A simple threat going for the h6 pawn. Rook to h7, bishop to f4, knight to b8, queen to e3, knight to c6, and now a very tricky idea, a4 by Stockfish. Stockfish is neutralizing some ideas of b5. by black. Black could maybe finally make progress with b5 b4. This is not possible because then even if you do that, then after 8x b5, 8x b5, the a file is going to be open. But even if you try knight to b8, maybe to attack here the pawn on a4 in this way, then this one is working. Bishop takes b8, king takes b8, we deliver a check, and now you play queen to d5. There is no rook connection between the rook and the queen. You can maybe pick up the pawn, but then the knight is hanging. So you see, again, simply too much pressure here on the e file. So that's why a4, really interesting choice here by Stockfish. Many of us would not play, I think, this move. But this is the typical, I would say, Stockfish move. Very power play here by Stockfish 16. Queen to f7. Stockfish reroutes the knight. Is of course searching for a better opportunity. We have queen to d7, bishop to g3, and now bishop to h4. Stockfish reroutes the pieces. Now the bishop is protecting the pawn, which makes, of course, the life of the knight easier. The knight can be, of course, included into the game. We have bishop to d6, knight to f4. If you play here bishop to f4, rook to f4, nothing dramatically changes because then the g4 pawn will probably be taken, so it's also not working. So after knight to f4, or bishop to c7, rook to e2, putting more pressure against this weak pawn on e6. So this is now the main strategic plan. Rook to e8, queen to g3, and now finally bishop to f4. Stockfish went for this pawn. Here Slow just gave up now. The bishop for a knight, queen to f4, we have rook to h7, and now we have finally queen takes g4. The pawn that Stockfish sacrificed many moves ago now is finally taken. This pawn is marching. Again, a beautiful activity. e5 is again not working because of the control of the square by all of these pieces. Very beautiful positional play here by Stockfish. Knight to f7, we have rook takes e6. Finally this pawn is taken. Knight to d8, and now knight to e7. Very cool move because Stockfish sacrificed even the exchange here just in order to get this powerful knight into the game. We have knight to e7, f takes e7. Now this pawn is almost unstoppable because the main goal is, of course, to play rook to d6 and then rook to d8. In one moment you have to probably give up the rook again for the rook again for the pawn maybe, and for the bishop, so you'll have to give up back the exchange. We have b5 by Slow Chess. Now good move a5, which paralyzes now a potential route for the king. So really Stockfish is controlling all of the pieces all over the board, although white is down the exchange, but Stockfish basically controls every square on the board. We have king to b7, king to g3, rook to g7. Stockfish gets the king closer, and now a rook to b6. Good move after this check. King to c8 has been played by Slow Chess. Even if you go here, then the issue is rook to d6. As I said, you cannot really give up the protection of the bank rank. You would love to, of course, participate in the attack with your rook here. You would love to go, of course, with the rook into the game, but this is not working. You have to always worry about some back rank problems. So that's why for rook to b6 here, king to c8 had to be played by Slow Chess in order to get the king closer to the action. We have king to e5. Stockfish gets the king in a really cool way into the game. We have rook takes b2, but of course also this pawn is falling, and the main goal is now somehow to grab this one, then also this one, and also you can also try king to c5 and then d5, d6, d7, letting this pawn roll here on the d file. We have rook to e2. Now comes this idea, or king to d6. What should you do? If you attack the bishop, then nothing wrong here. Bishop to f6 can be played. We can also in some lines get the king here. This pawn is marching. Again, unstoppable formation here by white. After king to d6, we have b4, rook takes b4, rook to a2, and now king to c6. Stockfish liberates now the path for the pawn. It's game over here for black. Rook takes a5, now d5, and what should you do? Even if you try here rook to d5 to give it up, then king to d5, you're trying this one, you get the rook back, and now you deliver a check. Now you get the king closer, and in one moment we play simply bishop to g3. There is this checkmate threat, and if you take the bishop, then there is this checkmate threat, so this is not working. So after move d5, rook to c5 has been played by Slow Chess, which is a slower way to die here for black, but nothing is working anyway here. Stockfish got the pawn here, pushed the pawn further, promoted here new queen, and now after a couple more moves it was a checkmate. It was game over here for slow chess. So great game, great instructive approach here by the fish in the beginning in this Tal variation of the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. Bishop to d3, going then full all in here on the king side with h5, and then you have to create here a nice defensive structure with the move c3 developing. And as I said, this whole concept is then to break and enter here somewhere around the square f5. You saw Stockfish played rook to king to g2, bishop to e3, rook to f1, and then f5. When that move was possible, it was almost unstoppable to defend its position anymore for slow chess. So I think this is a great approach. I think this is an instructive approach. I think this is playable. This is useful for you. Maybe you don't want to complicate things too much. I think this is a really nice positional way to dismantle, to destroy the Caro-Kann defense. If you want to see more about the Caro-Kann, check out our studies so far. Here's the link of our playlist. And if you want to see more powerful Stockfish games, but also some other AI games, check out our Common the Chess Games Played by Computer series. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.